Ladies and gentlemen, this is the result of two very confused,
And
people,
very nerdy people.
very nerdy people going into a bit of a rant as to, well, okay, to put it short, we're getting into a rant about just how chronologically confused we are about the Metroid series
And its numbering.
and its numbering. Now, I mentioned, me and Ryan were discussing Metroid in Skype, and
Specifically Other M and how it's
Yeah.
coming out June 27th. Yay!
yeah, very looking very forward to it. But I stated that I was awaiting a sequel to Metroid Fusion, which is Metroid 5.
Which you called Metroid 5.
Metroid 5. This prompted Ryan to ask, they're not going to retro revive everything, which led me to question, how would a sequel to Metroid Fusion be exactly retro reviving the Metroid series, because that's what it is. In any case, he's wondering why Metroid Prime, or the Metroid Prime series, is not considered Metroid 5, 6, or 7.
I know chronologically it comes like directly after the first game.
Yeah. Well, before anyone asks, the chronological order of the series is Metroid, Metroid Prime series, Metroid 2, Super Metroid, Metroid Other M, and Metroid Fusion to finish it off.
But where does Metroid Pinball fall into this?
Metroid Pinball doesn't fucking count. As a spin-off, does not count. Anyway.
I just did that to be silly, so.
Okay. Anyway, the reason why I call it Metroid 5 is because there are two separate series. Even though they're linked together canonically, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Canonically. Okay, whatever. They are considered two separate series. You have Metroid, and then you have Metroid Prime. Now, a sequel to the main Metroid series, what I'm talking about here, should be called Metroid 5.
In which case, where does Metroid Other M come into this?
Metroid Other M obviously falls in between Super Metroid and Metroid 5.
No,
Metroid Fusion.
I know
Metroid
that.
Fusion.
I know chronologically where it fits in. I'm just saying where, title-wise does this fit in?
Title? Well, Metroid Other M in a way is unique. Because unless it states that it's Metroid 3.5, which actually would be incredibly retarded because I'm not a fan of 0.5s, then I'll treat it as unique. But if it doesn't say Metroid Prime 4, or if it doesn't say Metroid Prime 3.5, then it's separate. Then we have a whole other series going on here, which is why I'm not counting it in terms of in numbering order, unless it says so in the beginning of the game.
But what if it actually... Well, obviously, all things considered, it seems to be a completely direct follow-up to Super Metroid. They even said the first cutscene is showing the end of Super Metroid, so...
Yes.
Even if it's separate, it's... Like Metroid Prime, it's canonically in there, so...
Yeah.
The naming conventions between all the games aren't holding up at all.
Yeah.
At least what you're trying to argue, anyway.
Yeah. My point is, if there's going to be a sequel in the main Metroid series, I'm talking about the ones that are numbered, it's got to be called Metroid 5.
But I argue that makes no sense, because...
It makes perfect sense!
No, it
because
doesn't.
there's two separate series! There's the main Metroid series, and then there's Metroid Prime.
And then Other M came and fucked it all up.
Change... Other M is that monkey wrench inside that wonderfully greased clockwork. But if there's going to be a sequel to Fusion, it's Metroid 5. Unless it has a subtitle of its own, and then it's another monkey wrench inside this clockwork. But that's how it works. I'm trying to think of another series that's done something like this.
But you can't, because
No, I
naming
cannot.
convention is terrible.
Well, the closest thing, because there are actually people out there who are still waiting for Super Mario Bros. 4, even though that's what World is in Japan.
Well, yeah, and then they're just being silly.
Yeah, but that's not the point. My point is...
the problem is Mario doesn't have any story to connect everything, so it really doesn't matter.
There's that too. At this point, I'm just talking about numbers.
Yeah.
Because there is two main series, I'm trying to... I can't think of anything. Metroid is pretty damn unique with this kind of shit.
Basically, Johnny was arguing that Super is Metroid 3 and Fusion is Metroid 4, which
Metroid is Metroid 3!
I will contend that I will concede that they are in there. However, if you go everywhere, it is always called Super Metroid. On the title screen, when you're buying it online, on the actual game box, on the actual cartridge, it's called Super Metroid. That's the only place it's called Metroid 3, so it's kind of it's like, yes, it's called Metroid 3. It was the third one to come out.
It's the third one to come out, and the game states itself in the beginning, it's Metroid 3.
Metroid
is a subtitle.
What would you do if... No, it's not a subtitle if it's on the title screen without Metroid 3.
No, I mean, I'm talking about in terms of the game is Super Metroid technically is a subtitle if it's Metroid 3. People just call it...
Not.
Yeah, I know. The title says Super Metroid on the cover. But the game
on the title screen.
In the game, it's hold on. But the first thing that appears in the game itself is Metroid 3,
no, it's
and then Super Metroid. What? Get the stick out of your ass! And when you boot up the game, it says Metroid 3 first, and then it says Super Metroid. The same applies to Metroid Fusion. It says Nintendo presents Metroid 4. Spaceship crashes into asteroid field, Metroid Fusion.
However, Metroid Prime came out on the same fucking day and is part of the canon.
And it's called Metroid Prime.
So why isn't that also Metroid 4 or Metroid 5 in that case?
Because it doesn't have a number. It never states itself inside the game that it has a number. We just know that
other M, therefore throwing your complete...
Yeah, but we also just said that other M is also unique. It will be treated separately, unless... we're missing something here, unless there's going to be in the beginning of the title sequence that says Metroid 3.5.
But like I'm saying, it makes no sense considering Other M apparently is a much more direct follow-up than Fusion is. Metroid Fusion is only called Metroid 4, I suppose, I guess due to the fact that it was only the fourth game released.
But Metroid Fusion is a sequel to Super Metroid.
And so is Other M.
Yeah.
Doesn't that then?
But Other M takes place between Fusion and Super Metroid.
Then should Metroid Fusion technically be called Metroid 5 now?
No.
Even though if it says it in the... Like, I'm trying to argue that it's Metroid 4 in release date only.
No, it's Metroid 4 in the fucking title!
Well, it's Metroid 4 in release date only because Other M threw a wrench into that whole thing.
Other M, if it takes place in between the games, then no, it does not. Look. There's two ways Metroid Fusion will still be called 4. If Metroid Other M is called 3.5, or it's the fuck I'm looking for, or it's you are angering me.